BPI Sports has always been a massive supporter of natural bodybuilding, so it only made sense for us and them to partner up. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by BPI Sports, and if you want to support them and us, use code Natty News Daily at checkout for some exclusive discounts off any of your orders. Enjoy the episode.
What's happening, people? Welcome to another episode of Natty News Daily. As you guys can see, we got a fourth member on the podcast, and this is a man you're going to see quite regularly moving forward, which we're very excited about. Mr. Brett Freeman, WNBF World Champion, 2019, correct?
Yes, 2019.
Yeah. So very excited to have Brett on, and Brett's going to have an interesting role with Natty News Daily. So for those that don't know, Brett's an encyclopedia of natural bodybuilding history, fun facts, trivia, and all that kind of stuff. So, with Natty News, obviously our goal is to be, a media presence, right? We want to provide, obviously, the podcast, but also, going into show results and coverage and, with Brett looking back at the sport and maybe looking at content and shows and, speaking to athletes who maybe we don't know as, younger athletes in the sport, and just, really branch out and really expand natural bodybuilding outside of just what we know, the three of us. So Brett will be having a segment that will be exclusive to the Natty News membership site. So quick plug, if you're not a member, get on that. This is obviously public on YouTube, but the content that Brett will be doing will be exclusive to the site. So I encourage you guys, if you haven't signed up, please do so. It really supports us and obviously gives us an opportunity to expand what we're doing within natural bodybuilding, which clearly you guys are involved in. So Brett is going to be hosting with us a segment that we've dubbed Back When with Brett. That was pretty clever. Might not be clever. I might just be on prep brain thinking everything's clever right now. But anyways, I guess let's give Brett a quick little plug, man, with what we're looking to get from you. What do you want to, do with this Back When with Brett segment? They're going to be short little podcasts, kind of like what we normally do, but different subject matter. Like what's your vision? What are you hoping to share with maybe athletes that are, coming up in the sport that don't know all these iconic names and all these events that, you even name drop people and I looked them up and I've never heard of them. And I'm kind of in the bodybuilding trenches just as much as the next guy.
Yeah, no, I just want the athletes of this generation to kind of know who, made it, paved the way for them.
Yeah.
I'm really big on that. Just, knowing where the sport came from and just knowing the history behind it, because there's so much coverage that, we weren't able to really cover back then because we didn't have social media like nowadays.
Yeah.
So this kind of even stems back to Nettie Talk Radio, where I originally wanted to show that coverage back then with shows, but we just didn't have the technology yet, to get it to the masses.
Yeah.
But I do believe there are so many. There's so many rivalries that kids nowadays, never heard of. I mean, Siobhan Cunningham, he's one of the most slept on world title holders of all time, and he's not even in anybody's top 5.
Yeah.
So it's just paying respect, paying dues to those that, allowed us to be here.
And that's something we've noted is it's just overall exposure is just, there's just something that's lacking there. And
yes,
that's something that I think has been needed to be filled. And I think have been doing a good job with current athletes, but with this segment, I'm looking forward to expanding that to, knowing the history and knowing who, like you said, paved the way.
What's interesting too is, right now, especially, the last little while in the enhanced side of the sport, people are like, oh, it was better back in the day, right? The late 90s, early 2000s, the physiques look different and all this kind of stuff. And when I go and try to dig up old content, I'll go on Facebook and look up, your stuff and, Nunez, Jeff Alberts, Brian Whitaker's website is a great place to find old stuff. And seeing these athletes, from that era, as much as people want to say natural bodybuilding and enhanced bodybuilding are different, there are a lot of similarities. And when you look at these older athletes, man, the quality's incredible. Like seeing some of those photos of like Brian up there, you know, you name drop Siobhan, sorry, but like Sean Clarita, Jim Cordova, like, man, these guys are incredible. And this was before, and this again, we could go off on this, but this was before the science and the optimal and all that crap, right? Like these guys just ate well, they trained hard, they slept good, and they were units.
Mm-hmm. And I think even back then, you could even look at why they did it. It wasn't because of social media. It was because they actually had passion and love for the sports. And that's something I feel that, you know, has been taken away too from the sport.
Yeah, you look at someone like Brian, right? How long it took him to turn pro and actually earn that world title. Like,
yeah, he didn't
weird.
even get involved in the sport until after, I think he was in his 30s, late 20s, early 30s, started training, did his first show. And
and you see 19-year-olds being like, I'm turning pro this year. You're like, bro, you've been training for like 20 minutes.
Come down, take 10 years and then come back.
Yeah, you still got a math test on Friday.
And to pull us back on topic again, I love what we're doing here, because I don't even know if you guys know it as much as I do, just because I work with Brett so closely. But what we're doing here is very much a mirror of what Brett started years and years back with Natty Talk. So talk a little bit about that, Brett, where you guys started with that. I mean, even some of the people you interviewed, like they're the names that we know now as like major social media presences, and they kind of got their start with you.
Yeah, no. So Zachary Walizada, he was the host of Nettie Talk. I was the co-host. So he was the creator of it. But our goal was, I mean, very similar to your guys', it was getting coverage for the sport, because there was nothing back then. There was no WNBF, you know, press. There was no OCB. There was no IFPA. There was nothing. So we're like, well, we go to the shows as is. Why don't we, you know, film them and then, you know, post it up online? So eventually word got around that we were doing that. We were approached by Top Supplements Online, along with Mark Lobliner. They sponsored us to go to shows, kind of similar to you guys as well, to cover them. We ended up covering the first ANBF show with Kent Beerley. That was back in 2012, 2013. And then that kind of like kickstarted who we would eventually end up interviewing, which was, I think we started the podcast off with Nunez and Helms, and then it trickled down to Whitaker, Philip Ricardo, Valentina Zuga, Ryan Doris, and just a Doug Miller, Lane Norton, just a laundry.
Valentina Zuga is an incredible athlete that people don't know about either.
He was in Ohio State. He was from Ohio State too, with Whitaker. So he trained at the same gym, same location as him.
Damn, that's sick.
But no, he was an incredible athlete that, again, is under the radar because he doesn't compete anymore.
Yeah.
He still posts online too, but nobody follows him. So, but our goal was to just, you know, bring more fans to the sport and just give it more coverage, because we were, you know, fans first and foremost.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that all of us can attest that we just are fans of bodybuilding and, you know, deeply fans of natural bodybuilding, right? So that is always the goal for us, right? And something that we were name dropped on Steve's podcast there. Him and Pascal were talking about one of the things that they like that we do is that we're not just posting our friends or the people that we like or the physiques that we like. Like I'll get a message from someone that I've never, like, I can't go on the page and it's like, like just tagged, and like it's impossible for me to get a hold of everybody, which is insane because at first it was like 3 tags, now it's 300. But I'll get a message or a tag or something from someone with like 250 followers and they look insane, and I'm like, share, like that's like no one knows about you, get out there, man. And you know, whether it gets them anything or not, it's just, it speaks to what we're trying to do, right? And it's just build the community and the exposure for everybody, right?
And one thing I think that the natural realm hasn't done yet is they haven't really given us as much insight as NPC or the IFBB have, and I think that's something that has been severely lacking. I mean, it might be a little too fake to a certain extent, like wrestling wise, with how they promote it and brand it, but that draws more people into the seats and it brings more fans to the sport.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they've created rivalries, they've created personas and personalities within the sport where there are guys like, the top coaches, but other than that, like, you really don't know who's coming to your show unless it's like your big like worlds or something like that. And then right? But like any one of these shows, these regional shows could be a big show if people like really promoted it hard and made an attempt to make it, a inter-federation or interstate show or what have you.
That's something that Mr. America has been doing a good job is
Mhm.
dropping like when they posted that Meshach announcement, Meshach's doing Mr. America. Like
Mhm.
I got pumped for that, right? I was like, damn, like, and they promoted it, they posted it, we shared it, Meshach shared it, and now whether it's nowhere near what like Brett was saying, like the NPC IPV, but all of a sudden 5 people that like Meshach had no idea about the Mr. America are like, wait, what is the Mr. America? Oh, Meshach's doing it, and all of a sudden that snowballs, right? And now you
Yep.
have more, quote unquote asses in the seats, more dollars, which ideally, our goal is to start, let's get some athletes some compensation here. Let's make this, outside of just a passion project. If you can make bodybuilding make you money, then it's going to be that much better for everyone.
You'll see an uptick, I think, in the quality of athletes too, if they're able
Totally.
to commit more to bodybuilding essentially and full-time bodybuild,
Mhm.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
one thing I never understood why they don't do is I don't understand why the natural shows don't, have a guest poser like a world title holder or another professional guest pose to draw even more
Mhm.
seats in, and then potentially have like a Q&A session afterwards.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, these are all ideas for potential future businesses, business ventures.
I was thinking the same thing, James.
Yeah. And kind of like building off of that, that's the things that we're speaking of are things that we're definitely going to be pushing in this upcoming year, right? Like we established ourselves first on Instagram, and then it was the YouTube interviews. Now we have the membership site. That last key component is we've made a real commitment between now the 4 of us that we're going to be at as many shows as possible, getting as much content as possible to air on the membership site to really build that community. Like we want to be there. We want to be interviewing people like Brett was back in the day. And then that's just going to stream into hopefully more people coming to these shows, more like hype about the shows because people kind of know what it was like and what's actually going on there instead of just seeing, a couple professional photos come out of a couple individual athletes or maybe the IG from the WNBF or OCB or whoever share someone else's post. Like there needs to be professional grade information coming out of these shows.
Yep. Yeah. And I think one thing that, because we are, it's one thing for a photographer to ask you a couple questions or like an interviewer that's maybe not in it, right? They're like, oh, did you have fun today? Like, no one wants to know that. Whereas if any of us were at a show and it's like, hey man, like, how's the last few weeks been? How are you feeling right now going into, what are you doing backstage? What are you doing for, pre-carbs? What'd you eat last night? Like those are the kind of things that if I was interested in talking to an athlete and getting a quick little segment with an athlete, I'd want to know kind of the deeper insights as to just like, how you feeling, kid? So
How many times did you train a day leading into the show?
Yeah. You work out every day? No, I don't ever. I don't think I've ever worked out every day.
you don't do AM and PM?
No, can't say as I do. But
I tried that for a short window. I didn't like it. That's a tangent.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think between the 4 of us for sure, like, for me anyways, between competing and coaching, like I'll be at every local CPA show regardless. So I might as well take a camera and get some documentation from it, right? And this is something that I think we need to also sit down and kind of coordinate. Okay, if we're at a show, what kind of content do we want, right? Am I going up a vlog style? Do you want me, stand back? Like this is the kind of stuff that we will be ironing out, and maybe for those watching, if you have suggestions or tips or what would you want to see, if there was like a 10-minute show coverage of the CPA Coburg Naturals coming up here at the end of April where I am, what does that look like? Do you want what do you want to see, right? And that's where we will do our best. I think where we will have a lot of opportunity is more behind the scenes stuff. I know locally that they're pretty finicky about capturing stage photos and footage now. It's probably a lot tighter than when Brett was doing it back in the day. I know even here they are okay with your phone, but not a DSLR, right? So I can record the same content, but not with a professional camera. Why that is, I'm not entirely sure, but that's the rules. However, if I went around to a couple guys, at the hotel the night before, morning of, obviously that is, our own content, right? That's nothing to do with the shows, right? So, let us know, guys, what do you want to see? And we will do our best to accommodate, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to create stuff that you want to watch.
And I think ultimately, if there can be some level of coordination with the shows themselves too, I think that would be beneficial. I know just as an athlete, like backstage and right before the show, it's kind of like, what's going on? What's the timing of this? There's so many, the expediters, you're trying to figure out when the heck you're going on stage, what you're going to eat, there's just a lot going on that like interviews like at that time wouldn't really make sense. But if you kind of plug a time, like, okay, we're going to do it pre-stage and it's going to be at this time, it's not going to impact your stage time. That's just a thought.
And that's on us, but also if this is something that interests our listeners, I mean, like the four of us can't cover the globe, not yet, right? Like we don't have the funds for that, obviously. So this media correspondent role that we've created for Brett now is something that can potentially grow to other individuals as well. Like we need people in different markets and different regions. So once we've ironed this out, I mean, there's a huge opportunity for other people to become involved in the sport that they love as well, just like we have.
Yep. No,
great point. Great point.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we've kind of ironed out what exactly Brett's gonna help us accomplish. Obviously, what our goals are moving into 2022 is to get more show coverage, more education. I think will be cool from Brett's angle of the back when with Brett segments. Right now, I think our target will be a monthly episode, similar to the what do we call them? Expert interviews, something along the lines of the once a month, but we will continue to do the podcast, guys, every single week, which you will probably see Brett on more episodes with that too, because obviously he has a different insight than we do. So we thank you for supporting us at Natty News Daily. We are very much on an uptick through Instagram, so we really appreciate it. We talked about chasing 10K last year. And it's been very much doing this now, which is something that James spoke about, that once we really start getting some traction, it's going to grow. And it seems like every week it almost feels like we're hitting another 1,000. We're just about what am I at right now? 10.7, right? And we hit 10 at the end of January, I think. So we're climbing, and it's really cool to see. We appreciate it. So again, like I said at the very beginning, if you're not on the membership site, please join in. You're going to get exclusive content, the forum, there's photos. I've uploaded all kinds of show photos. I know Dan has as well. So there's no shortage of initial content on there. If you haven't seen the conversation with us and Cliff discussing my prep, it's gone over really well. A lot of positive feedback on that. And it's almost an hour and a half of Cliff Wilson, which if you are a fan of the sport, he is someone that shares a lot of good information. So it was really good. So thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed the episode, obviously give it a like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, all that good stuff. And we'll see you guys in the next one.